What's going on, everyone? My name is Tom from Dreadlabs, and today we're going to talk about how to get more bookings as a DJ.
Dreadlabs.
Before we start the video, I just wanted to let you know that you can get the FLP files and all of the other Photoshop files and everything from my tutorials if you become a patron of mine. There's a link down in the description, or if you want to learn more, stick around till the end of the video. So if you know me from my main channel, you know that I'm a graphic designer, but I've actually also been a DJ and a music producer for over 12 years now. And during that time I picked up a couple of tips on how to get more bookings as a DJ, and that's what I wanted to share with you today. I never really made it that big, but I got around 10 gigs a month at my peak, and basically this brought in some nice money for me at the time. So yeah, based off of that information, do note that this is a tutorial for starting DJs if you're just a beginner and you want to get some more bookings, or maybe you want to get your first booking. So before I actually want to talk about what you need to do, I also want to let you know a couple of things that you probably shouldn't do. And before I actually dive into them, I just wanted to let you know that these are all from my personal experience. It might be a little bit different for you, it's just what worked and what didn't work for me. So number one is don't be thirsty. So in my personal experience, just DMing a promoter, an organization or whatever, asking if they could get you booked, never really worked for me. And this might sound harsh, but these organizations, these promoters don't need you. They don't owe you anything, and they definitely don't owe it to you for you to be playing there, if that makes sense. So you can imagine that if you get a DM like that, from the perspective of the promoter or whatever, it really comes off as thirsty and kind of demanding, and that's what you don't want to look like. Especially sending people DMs on their personal Instagram account, for example, can definitely rub off the wrong way. And that's because they're probably not on their personal Instagram accounts, waiting for DMs to appear from like small-time DJs wanting to play at their gigs. So be aware of this and don't come off as too thirsty in this case, I guess. So number two is don't enter in too many DJ contests. Another thing I noticed throughout the years is that DJ contests usually end up in two ways. Case number one is that the contest is way too big and the people hosting the contest don't even have the time to go through all of the mixes. Basically the amount of entries is just way too high and your mix has a very low chance of even being listened to. And the other case is that there's some sort of favoritism at hand here. I come from the Netherlands, which is very famous for their large amount of DJs, but in the Netherlands itself there's also a lot of DJs, and we even have schools based around the dance music industry and stuff like that. So here in the Netherlands they have a lot of DJ contests, and I entered in a lot of them as well. But favoritism within DJ contests, or rigged DJ contests if you will, have been happening for the last 12 years at least, and it's still happening right now. A little while ago a friend of mine entered in a DJ contest and he lost to a person who we found out had a personal connection in one way or another with the organization. I don't want to get into too much detail, but this person won a DJ contest, and I think there were over 50 people that entered, and the winning person wasn't even able to beat match their songs. So the very basic necessity of being a DJ was overlooked here, and this person won a DJ contest. So yeah, I wouldn't waste too much time, because you're gonna let yourself down, or they're gonna let you down, and it's probably not the most productive way to spend your time. The last thing that you shouldn't do is lower your own standards. And this might sound weird because you're just starting out. What standards should you have? But this can mean a couple of things, and the two most common ones is lowering your prices or playing for free, or changing the music that you're playing. Let's say you're a very passionate techno DJ, but you don't have any gigs to play yet, or maybe just a couple of them. Some local promoter reaches out to you, or a local venue reaches out to you to have you play there. But one of two things happen. Basically they ask you to play very generic music, so not techno, or they ask you to play for free. The problem with this is that it's very innocent at this point, but once this starts rolling, more promoters and more venues will know about your prices, so eventually you might get known for DJing for free or DJing for a very low fee, and of course you don't really want that. But also you get more and more gigs with music that you don't really want to play yourself. And when you start growing, playing the wrong kind of music that you don't really like, you grow as a brand and you get known for playing that same type of music. And this might result in more gigs, but eventually you'll grow tired of it. And believe me, I've been in that position where I had to play very urban styled sets, and that's definitely not what I wanted to do when I just started out with that act. And yeah, I got more bookings with it, and I lowered my standards for what kind of music I was able to play. It went well on the outside, but for me personally, I didn't really like doing it anymore after a while. Alright, so now that we've discussed 3 things that you shouldn't do, let's talk about 3 things that you should do. So number 1 is make it easy for potential promoters or potential bookers to listen to your music and see you. And the most obvious thing here is, of course, have a very present social media profile. Keep it regularly updated, make as many photos or videos when you have a gig so you have a lot of content to post. This way it's easier for people to actually get a glimpse of what you play like or what kind of music you make. And also this, of course, will eventually generate in a bigger crowd of people listening to you. On social media, of course. But it's also very important, of course, to have people actually listen to your music and make that as easy as possible for them. This can just be a simple SoundCloud link to one of your mixes in your bio, but also maybe, you can shoot some reels from like sets that you make and post those on Instagram or on YouTube. And this can even be as simple as just recording some parts of your DJ set when you record your own DJ sets at home. So this doesn't necessarily have to be like videos of cool gigs. You don't really have to fake it until you make it if you just make some cool videos at home. The bottom line is, don't make it hard for bookers and promoters to find and hear and listen to your music. Number 2 is return the favor. An easy way to get more gigs is to expand your network. I used to play a lot of gigs at my local bar in my hometown, and I asked them if I could do an event there. It's just a small event on a Friday evenings. It wasn't really too crowded at that point, but I got a little bit of budget from them and I was able to book a couple of DJs. And when finding potential DJs to book, I always made sure that they had a similar thing going on wherever they were from. And that means that if I could book them, they would usually also book me back. And if you get booked at their events, it's only a matter of playing a really good set and make sure that the owner of the venue, any promoters there or any people hear you and you get recognized. Of course, you don't necessarily have to make it an evening that you as a person host. You can always start your own event company and start doing these small events around like wherever you live. That's what I used to do as well. But when hosting events, it's always cool to have like this DJ name A invites. For example, I used to be in a DJ trio called Dischargers. And basically what we did was we had an evening called Dischargers Invites. So then the event's linked to your name as well, but also linked to whatever DJ you're going to book and will hopefully return the favor. So tip number 3 is have a thing and be noticeable. And this kind of builds on to the last point where I said basically that you have to make a very good set and leave a good impression at the potential promoters at the party. And this is going to sound kind of ridiculous, but when I used to play, I used to have a silver grill in my teeth. As well as a lot of rings and chains around my neck, and I also wore fake glasses. So yeah, I kind of looked like a ridiculous SoundCloud rapper at the time. And of course this didn't have to do anything with the music I played, but it definitely left an impression on people who were just listening to my music to begin with. It basically made it easier for potential bookers to recognize me. I remember some people getting back to me after I played a set there and they were like, oh, the guy in the glasses with the grills, he played a really nice set. And of course you can never know for sure, but I really think that if I didn't have that really noticeable appearance and I was just looking like everyone else there, the set maybe wouldn't even have lasted in his memory. But don't worry, you don't have to, dress yourself in ridiculous outfits to be noticeable, but you can also do this with your music. When I played these super generic sets, I always made sure to make some mashups that I didn't really put on the internet. So I was the only one having these mashups that I made. And they were really, really focused on riling up the crowd. Basically grabbing the melody of one track and using that with a synth of another track. Something that the crowd really liked and really appreciated. Basically, that way, when the crowd reacts really positively to your track or your mashup or whatever, potential bookers, promoters, people working there, people seeing what you do with the crowd will remember this. And the cool part, of course, is if you don't really share this, no other DJ can copy this as well. I actually still get DMs on my old SoundCloud asking if I could release a full version of those mashups or if I could update the download links that have expired since. So there you have it, guys, 3 do's and 3 don'ts when trying to get more bookings as a DJ. And if you're thinking if any of this is real, if these experiences that I'm talking about actually happened, I'll actually put a link down in the description linking to my old DJ account on SoundCloud where you can find some of these mashups that I talked about. Unfortunately, I do not have the Instagram account anymore for my DJ act, but the SoundCloud link will hopefully say enough. The music that I used to play on that account is very generic and dull to me now. I didn't really like it at the time. That's also what I talked about earlier when lowering your standards. I basically lowered my standards to play more generic music that would, make the general crowd here in the Netherlands happier than actual music that I really like to play myself. That's also why I eventually quit making that music and why I stopped playing, because I wasn't really even playing music that I really like myself. Anyways, if you have some tips on getting bookings yourself, leave them down in the comments for other people to see. And if you found this video useful, please leave a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. Before we end the video, I just want to give a big shout out to all of my patrons. If you don't know, I'm actually able to give you guys a free video on a weekly basis thanks to my patrons. They support the channel and making me be able to do Dreadlabs full time, and as a thank you they get access to all of the FLPs, project files, basically everything that can be found in my tutorials, as well as an exclusive 15% discount in my asset web store where I sell sample packs, but also graphic design assets, and on top of that you get an exclusive Discord role. So if you want to become a patron, there's a link down in the description, and with all of that being said, this was Tom from Dreadlabs tuning out, and I'll see you guys in the next video.